This is it, my old 2000 Wellcraft 190 Fisherman. It's been sitting around for several years. I've worked on it here and there, but it's pretty much been sitting for about a year now. The engine needs a little bit of work. It was rebuilt several years ago and barely used, but it does need the starboard head gasket has to be removed. Head has to be removed and have some new gasket material put on it. I'm sure it needs a few other things by now. Carbs were cleaned but never put back on. It's just kind of a mess. It's been sitting here, and my little project is going to be to try to get it looking decent and running again and on the water. As you can see, I did a little bit of work on it already, and it's very chalky, but it was really nasty here in this area. And I used some generic Clorox cleanup and a sponge, and it came right off. This is kind of what it looked like. You can see the difference from where I did it and where I didn't do it. The top rail here was done, but nothing down here. I did hit it with, pressurized hose. This is kind of what it looks like. So first thing I want to do is just clean it up, because I just can't stand to work on it if it looks like crap. So I got to get all this done. There's the interior. I did clean out the interior a little. I got rid of a bunch of branches and vegetative material, you name it. I've got to clean up the helm here and replace the water pressure gauge, at least, if not all the gauges. But they do seem to work, except for the water pressure gauge. And clean it up, maybe put a new backing there, that gray material. Maybe I can get a new one of those on there, make it look a little nicer. Need 2 new seats. I do have one already. I think I'm going to install it and see if I like it. I've had it for a while. I just have to install it on these pedestals, and I'll get another one like it if I like it. This mess all has to be cleaned up. Here's the motor. And you can see where I did some basic cleaning here. And then here's where I didn't clean anything. And this is coming next. This is kind of what I used. I'm sure it's not great for the gel coat, but I plan to buff it and polish it and then put some wax on it after I'm all done. So there's the Johnson 115. About 3 to 4 years ago, I partially rebuilt it, had it rebuilt the rest of the way. Had one cylinder, the three cylinders honed and one cylinder enlarged, and had a new piston put in, and it was running pretty well. But then I noticed a small leak in the starboard head, so I stopped using it and kind of put it away, and had a transportation issue at the time, so I couldn't really pull it. So it's been sitting here ever since. Here's what the inside looks like. It was a very low hours motor, even before it blew. I think something went wrong with the oil injection, caused that cylinder to mess up. Last time I checked it about a year ago, the compression was good. I think it was about 120, close to it for every cylinder, or each of the 4 cylinders. It was running really rough, so I took the carburetors off, cleaned them all out, and I didn't put these 2 back on. These 2 carburetors need to go back on here. Hopefully that didn't cause a problem sitting out like that, but it was covered the whole time, so looks okay. These 2 carburetors are on. I hate these plastic carburetors in this 115. I don't want to get these carbs on. I did replace the spark plugs about a year ago, and it barely ran, so I'm hoping they're still good, but if not, I'll replace the spark plugs again. It was just running kind of rough with the dirty carburetors. So there's a little bit of a look at the inside. It's a nice little boat. It's 19 feet. It's 19 feet 4 inches long, I think, but it's really more like an 18-foot boat with this engine mount, and then the the bow rail up here, whatever you call it, the bow pulpit. So I was on an easy loader trailer, which I rebuilt several years ago. Put new supports for the boards, and had the did the bearings and the hubs. Did a bunch of work on it. Probably needs tires now. This was all new. That's got some surface rust down there. I don't know if it's that bad or not. I don't think it is. But if so, I could replace that beam. Might be time to replace these U-bolts, but they're probably okay. Got to pull it out of that hole. Here's what the interior looks like. Hopefully this is mainly just dirt and mold and mildew. Every time I've cleaned it up before, this has come very clean. I want to find somebody locally who will redo this this cushion and the backrest. 2 small seat cushions there. That's really all I have for upholstery. I did want to have a pad made for here with some snaps for when I have people or kids sitting up there. Eventually I'll do that. That'll be the last thing I do. Might replace these plastic hatches here, but they clean up pretty well. Excuse me. So if any of you else out there have this boat, I know there's Quasport made a model that was almost exactly alike to this Wellcraft 190 Fisherman. I need to get some new logos too, some new graphics. This one is okay, but it could redo it too. This was a pad for the back of the seat. I could have those remade. The wiring, I'm sure, is not that great, but I'll deal with that when I have to. The one problem I did have is I had a hard time with I have another video on this. I had a hard time with the steering, so I replaced the steering cable. And as you can see, the steering is okay, but it's kind of tight. So I replaced the steering cable, and it still stayed tight. So then I replaced the whole helm. So the bottom, I don't know if you can see it, but the bottom up in here, that's a brand new helm. And it still stayed tight. Yet when I unlatch it from the engine, down here on the steering tube, it's loose as can be. So I don't think it's the helm or the steering cable that's the problem. I think it's something down here, but this seems to be very loose and there's a lot of play in it. You can see it moving back and forth there. So but it moves very freely when it's not hooked up, but when it's hooked up, it gets kind of tight. It does turn, but it's just tight. So I don't know if that's just the situation that the new helm and the new steering cable need to break in or what. I'm planning on calling the C-Star people and asking them. So anyway, I just wanted to give you a quick look at this. It's a total mess. And hopefully it's going to look a lot better in the next couple of days and couple of weeks as I work on it. It's kind of been sitting here in the yard. And take these seats out or off. They should come off pretty easily. And do a major cleaning. I'm going to get the pressure washer out here pretty quickly and get it cleaned up where at least I can stand to look at it while I'm doing the engine work. I think first I'm going to try to get the engine running. The problem was right here on this head, and right here at the top of the head. I believe, was it here? Was it here? I think it was right here where the bubbling was. Little bits of water bubbles were coming out. Possibly right here too. I don't know. I don't remember if it was here at the actual engine or whether it was the head cover. I think it could have been in here where it was bubbling. So my first plan is to pull this out. I'll probably change the thermostats too, but pull this out and redo the gasket material and then tighten it back down with the proper torque specs. I did torque it down to those specs about a year ago, and it didn't seem to make a difference. It was still leaking. There's a thermostat right there. So I'm just hoping there wasn't enough gasket material put in here when it was installed by my mechanic. This model apparently doesn't use a gasket. It uses just gasket material. So I'm going to put maybe a little more than he put on there. I'm going to clean it off, wire wheel it, put some more on there, and torque it down, and hopefully the problem goes away, and then I can start running the engine again. I just hope the two of the carburetors sitting off of here hasn't caused a problem. But this was all covered the entire time, and the carburetors themselves were, under roof and covered. You can see where this at one point apparently had a 150 compression on all of these cylinders. I don't know if that was from the factory. So I think I remember it having a 120 or a 130 when I bought this in 2003, when I had it checked out. Let's see, that one was 145. The other three were 150. Now I think it's running about 120 after the rebuild. And I believe it's one of these two cylinders that I had, what do you call it? Not carved out, not honed, but, not re-sleeved, but re-ground out smooth. And one of these has a new piston. I also put a new, is it drive shaft or crankshaft? The main shaft that's inside here. My mechanic that was working on it with me, I tore it down, and he did all the heavy lifting. He said my crankshaft was bad, so I bought a used one that was in good shape from a local marina, local mechanic, and it seemed to work fine. So apparently some of the journals in mine my original were a bit cranked, a bit worn and gouged out. And he said you couldn't replace those pieces or fix those pieces, you had to just get a whole new one. So I wound up paying big money for a used one. This motor has been set up to run with premix. I'm not sure if I had trouble with the OMS system or not, but just to make sure, we switched it over to premix. I didn't want to blow it again. I had rebuilt the pump before. There's the pump down in here somewhere. Yeah, there it is. There's the OMS pump, but right now it's just doing gas. We don't have it rigged for oil injection. So, but it was doing both until the engine blew on me. That's about it for now. As a look at it, it's 190 Fisherman. I think it could clean up pretty nicely. I hope it can. The floor seems okay. I haven't noticed anything major problems with the floor or the transom. But I'm hoping the floor is okay all the way through it. I haven't really tested it a lot in the last couple of months. The only other major problem is I forgot about that, and that's why this gas tank is here, is the gas tank is under here. And I had a problem for a couple of years with the gas tank getting water in it. And the water, a huge amount of water, not just a little water, like gallons of water. And it started after I had an issue with leaving the tank open. We had a hurricane, and I had a bunch of gas in here, and I wanted to get the gas out and put it in a generator. And so I opened up the hole, the plate there, and I took off the sender and I pumped the gas out, and then I forgot about it, and it rained in there, and it rained gallons and gallons into the tank. Well, ever since then the tank always had water in it, and believe me, I dumped the tank. I cleaned the tank out. I put the front of the boat up, the bow of the boat up on a forklift. I got every drop of water I could get out of that tank several times, and then every time I would put gas back in there would be more water in there. It seemed like somehow the water's getting in along the sides of the tank, or maybe the top of the tank, because gas wouldn't leak out. I wouldn't smell gas, but there would be gallons of water in the gas multiple times. I checked this. This is fine for leaks. I checked, this is a fill There's no vent. It's a venting fill cap. I checked the hoses. I checked everything for leaks, and I could not find a leak anywhere. I talked with Wellcraft, and of course they're owned by somebody else now, and they wouldn't really help me. But I did talk to an old timer who said he'd never really heard about tanks cracking from the sides or the tops. But you know, he said anything could happen. But, so anyway, I finally gave up and I started using this external tank. But the idea was to replace the tank, or at least inspect it. But as you can see here, that looks like the tank is under this little lip goes around here. And the lip goes up to the console and then goes around back here like that. And I thought it might be pretty easy to just cut this rectangular piece up, either check the tank or pull the tank. But what I'm afraid of is, does the tank go underneath the console? It's a 50-gallon tank, so can I fit a 50-gallon tank there without it going under the console? If it does go under the console, can I slip it in and out, or do I have to remove this console? And as you can see, this console is apparently part of the cap of the boat. This console's one piece, so I think it would be very, very difficult to replace this console without a lot of reconstruction work. So when I get everything else done, I think what I might do is just cut here, cut there, cut there, cut there, open it up and have a good look at it. From what I've learned on YouTube, I think I could put this piece back in and figure out, you know, get enough Cavasil and epoxy and fill in the cracks and make it look decent again and seal it back up. That's hoping everything underneath is fine. This boat, I think, was one of the early boats made without wood, so I'm hoping and praying that everything underneath is okay and there's no wood in here. From what I'm told, the 2000 Wellcrafts were made from composite, so we'll see about that, I guess. But in the meantime, let's get it cleaned up and get it running. And if you guys want to follow along with me, be my guest. I appreciate comments. If you have this boat or one like it, there's an Quasport that's just like this. There's a guy I follow from South Florida who has a boat repair business. I can't remember his name right now, but he has this exact same boat. There's also Wellcraft has an 18 version of this, which is essentially the same boat, but it has I think about a 6-inch wider beam, and it doesn't have the bow pulpit. I think it's called an Wellcraft 180 Fisherman. It's a very similar boat though. And maybe some of you have that one, or have one of the older CCF versions. But feel free to comment, give me any suggestions, tell me how crazy I am, whatever. But it's a paid off boat, and I'd like to get it running and get it working and maybe enjoy it and take my granddaughter out and enjoy it and see what we can do with it. If I don't like it, after I fix it all up, well, I can sell it, I guess, because boats, running fixed up boats, we all know what the prices are like. So that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this. Please click the like button and subscribe to my channel if you're interested in seeing more.